bird seemed to chirp half its song and half a tree, when us became you again, and we became me.
To keep her head above the south of the water that fills her lungs, that pulls her down, she's about to drown. To taste the icy water, just an ignorant slaughter when the iceberg hit the ship and its bows did rip, and yet we stay up here and sip our martinis dry as the music they've been playing us and walks out the cry. So we deny until we comply, and our tongues are tied and our ears are closed, and we cannot hear the rhythm and the beat within our body. No, we cannot hear the rhythm and the beat within our body. Would you hear the rhythm and the beat within your body? There's a beat, so bang your drum. There's a beat, so bang your drum.
There's a beat, so bang your drum. Please. Bang it. Bang it, bitch.
And it's calling you to speak.
What the fuck?
There's a beat.
Yeah, I can't even handle this anymore. But having said that, and I'm going to cut it off, I shared the video link in the chat room. If you were that taken with it, you can go watch it over and over, put the shit on loop, and get fappery to it. But, so I said, you know, I can write. I like to time myself when I do any kind of poetry or prose work, because that way, if it's all fucked up and it's a massive failure, I can blame the clock. It's really a simple thing. I don't mind telling on myself. That's part of why I don't rehearse for this show, because I want to be able to blame any failures of it on the fact that I was under an assumed pressure, that I didn't have notes, I didn't have reference cards, I had no preparation. I don't run through the shit in my head before a show. I turn on the faucet and fucking vomit on you. And this is what you get. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good. But almost every time, I'll give you some reason to hang yourself if you were looking for one. I can almost always guarantee you that. But even that, I can't guarantee. I can just grandma and grandpa tea. However, we need to take a look at something I did. Now, this is me. I wrote the poem. I'm not telling you that I read this poem with a bunch of exciting lyrical twist, but it's my shit, and I wrote it. And it's basically my view of what it is to be American and how fucked up it is right now. So tell me what you think about this. I want your honest criticism in the chat room. Won't take long to get through this one. I did it to a little background beat. And then, you know, I do what I always do. I hung upside down in a hammock from the roof and I jerked off. But first this.
Calling you to speak.
Fingertips worship lips, they long.
You're listening to Truth on Tap with host Kevin Kierstead.
We're going to try to read a little poetry. I don't really talk like that. I just do that for the lols, please. No New America, it's called. The red, white, and blue, we call it. The U.S. of A., the beacon of freedom that shines from the tallest tower. The dead rise on cue when we call them. The Lincolns, the Washingtons, Kennedys, and the Eisenhowers. We prop up our heroes as the face of our brand. There's no race in this land of the imperfectly equal. Don't worry, immigrants, you have a chance in this land, because an imperfect union forces a permanent sequel. And that may be our problem. We admit it routinely, this country is forever in a beta stage. Maybe that's our excuse for this shit that we peddle. Not delivering medals for the men that don't match the tone of the page that the promise is written upon. Who are spit upon, then kicked out and shit upon. If you don't look like all the faces on Mount Rushmore, you will forever remain a simple pawn. A more perfect union, the carrot tied forever just outside of the reach of our horse. A thing to strive for that we passively concede will never be reached, so why try to change our course? Why try to change it now? If it can't be perfect, and more perfect is just some arbitrary line, if you're black, female, Asian, Hispanic, a Muslim, an Indian, if you're gay, or you don't match the brand, then why should you expect to be given the chances of men who look like the men who wrote the documents that protect you? Let this poem infect you. But I'm older now, shouldn't care so much. Slow your roll, KAK, that's what most people say. Simmer down, Kev, slow your roll. Maybe go to the bay for a stroll or a limp, but don't toll over rights of lesser people whose fight is not yours to fight. 'Cause you're already white, and a male, and you're tall, and educated, and a veteran, and your job is not to find ways to make America's promise better, man. Why would you engage in such an act of futility, trying to show that you retain some class and humility? Is this about you, man? About you polishing your image so that people see you as fair and not entitled to royalty? I thought about that. Wondered why should I care? What has a black or Hispanic or lesbian done to show me that they deserve what I think they deserve, so I told me to prove it? And I thought about Black Tuskegee Airmen and Navajo Code Talkers and the lesbian Jane Addams and her Nobel Peace Prize, and how the gay Anderson Cooper won Peabodys and Emmys, and how Rosa Parks stood 100 feet taller than her petite size. And while some fought for my kind and others alike, and others fought for their kind and against mine and all others, as I fought through these documents searching for what bound us to one another, I came back to the knowledge that America was not born from battles. Forget fourscore and war tours, or the war-torn, or Mike Moore's anger-forged hatred of how America's body slammed the non-whites and non-men and non-straight and non-Christian and non-willing to fit in. America was not born from this bullshit we fight for now. It was born from an idea. It was born from an idea. And the only reason I know that my America is great is because I know ideas are indestructible.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I said it, bitches. I said it.
Here's the thing. That was the opening volley. That was my hello. Hello, if you're saying it in Australia, out in the outback. I got a little English mixed in there. Is Don Lemon gay as well? Oh God, if they're both gay and they're doing business trips together, I think Anderson Cooper does have a professed partner, but I don't know how. I wonder if relationship loyalty runs the same between gays and straights. Because I don't talk to enough gays to know this. I don't, if you don't understand something, you don't understand it. Don't act like you do. That's my philosophy. So I don't really understand gay that much. But I do have a few, I don't want to say close friends, but like, for example, how can I say this? Because kids are involved. I am familiar with at least one gay couple that is married. And as I try to get to understand this, I don't really probe and ask questions. I just kind of observe and see, okay, let me see how this works, So I don't know. But what I don't like is that as soon as your average Christian hears something like this that must have been written about in the Old Testament, you're damned. Girls can't be with girls. Guys can't be with guys. And people the lie cover of Men's Health. All right. Transsexual from female to male. Now, he would tell you that he's always been a male, just had the wrong parts. I don't know how that works in the brain, folks. I've heard theories. That's it. I think Barco could probably answer this best for us, because he's always asking to see my cock. And I have a remarkably average cock. Not something you write home about. It's just like, hey, I do all right. Hey, it's all right. Don't worry about it. I got the average cock. It's not below average. But it's not, I'm not a John Holmes or anything of that nature or that sort there. But even, because cocks, what do you have? You have size, shape, you have tone, you have, can you hang a moistened bath towel on your cock? I can. When mine's up, yeah, I could hang 2 on. I could probably hang 3 on there. It's remarkably strong in that way. Can you do the wiggle, where you do the clench, wiggle, and make it wave? I can make mine wave. I also can pick up things as big around as a soda can with mine, and nothing to it. You just get the trunk going. There it is. If you're nodding right now, you're thinking about something you don't realize you're thinking about. Now, I don't have any more clips loaded for this show, so everything else we do from here is going to be super duper freestyle. So I'm going to play off of what I see in the chat room, and so far all I'm seeing is some gay talk. I guess I could pull up news and we could fuck with the news a little bit. I probably should do that. Let me have it at least in the background. News. News and shit. I'm literally going to search for news and shit right now and see if, because usually you find these, oh wow, somebody already had that site. Yeah, it really is news and shit. So when I searched for news and shit, literally newsandshit.com came up. That's fucking awesome. Let's see if it actually has news. This is going to be some kind of trap that hacks me into the Chinese mainframe. I got knocks on my door right now. News and shit, yeah, there it is. Duck stocks available by country. Are you kidding me? News and shit is a website. Unbelievable. Wow. All right. Well, I don't like the website. I don't like the layout. So what we're going to talk about, political candidates. I honestly don't think anybody's going to be able to compete with Hillary yet. I think there's enough dirt out there and more dirt to be uncovered that she could be significantly degraded in this upcoming race to the point where she does have real competition, not because they were of any special cloth, but just because she's been buried under a pile of dog shit that follows her around. I think mostly what's going to get her, if anything, is a sense of entitlement and above the law approach to everything. And when I hear her on these little town hall things, and I hear her saying, I want to be a champion for you. And I think back to the William and Mary PR director who told my girlfriend, who was working in the office at the time, that Hillary wouldn't even allow her staff to ride with her on the same elevator. These little interns that were working for her, they'd be instructed to skip the elevator and wait for the next one. That kind of person, I got your number. I got it. It's not like you just wanted that one day that you were having a bad day. That was your policy. And if you can't take 2 minutes on an elevator ride to answer a silly question or chat with the people that are working to get you elected, you're fucking, that's it. I know you got to pick the best person for the job, and it's still possible that if everybody else turns out to be worse than Hillary, I could still vote for her. But what I'm looking for right now is the person who lies the least. It's very hard to tell. Even when you go to the fact-checking sites, you don't know what they're deciding to check and what they're deciding to skip, so you have to ask about the relevancy. Turns out Marco Rubio lied about the 9 of the last 10 things he said. But 9 of the last 10 things he said were who he rooted for in college for sports teams. Do I give a fuck about that? Go ahead and lie about that. But it's not a good way to start off, but it doesn't matter, Shit on the news. Fucking shit news anchor fired after first day on job. Yeah, that happens. Shit local news. All right, let's just go to Google News. Aggregate. Represent Warren G and Nate Dogg up in this bitch. What's news? Why you gotta be all complicated? Well, did you mean news from the southeastern United States regarding strictly weather patterns and climate change? No, I didn't mean that. I meant just fucking news. Fucking headlines. What's fucking wrong with you? Fucking. The more I learn about William Wallace as I research this book, the more Scottish people baffle the fuck out of me. I don't understand how they think. They get weird, man. I was watching this panel. Had it was 2 Scots, an Irishman, and an Englishman. And they were all experts on William Wallace. And you could just see the 2 Scots, through their body language, just kind of seal off this Englishman. Like, you are not going to talk to us about William Wallace. You're from England. They're the ones that vilified him, because William Wallace to England was what Osama bin Laden was to us. It's a sad thing. One man's freedom fighters, another man's terrorist. That's the way it works. But the question I always have is, who did they attack? Did they go after innocents or not? And did they try to relieve their cause before they resorted to violence? Because that kind of defines the difference between a terrorist and a freedom fighter to me. Storm stop cruise ship. Whatever happened to just a news, all the news. Let me try this. Google News. See if it brings up a whole. There we go. Because this gives me a shitload of headlines. But first, we're going back to the chat room to see what kind of bullshit you guys are getting into. If I leave the chat room alone, what I usually end up with is a few hermaphrodites, not many. It's usually not more than 5, coming into the chat room, and they're a little confused because they don't know. Like, if Barker wants to see my cock, do I show him the cock part or the vagina part or both? He might want the double feature. You don't know. You got to get to know somebody a little bit. Now, the good thing about alcohol is we know what you want right away.